Well, hey guys, we are back on the porch again. This might be our summertime location for recording. This time around, I put a little microphone on. Maybe that'll silence the sound of the birds and whatnot out here. I don't know. We'll find out when I go back and editing. So listen, so we are going to be continuing the interview train from NRB, which is the National Religious Broadcasters Convention that just went on. And I've got several interviews that we're going to be doing, bit by bit, piecemeal. And this time I wanted to bring to you, this was the last interview of the first day, which was not really an interview, it was actually a panel. And it was so amazing and so fun. And I wanted to share with you like a little bit of the backstory of how that panel came about. And it was a really, really cool surprise for me from my fellow podcast host, Josh Barnes. And he's host of, along with his brother Jonathan, Point of View. And he was the coordinator and scheduler for all of our interviews and everything that was going on. So when I spoke to him about the interviews, he said, "Hey, how do you feel about being the moderator of a panel?" I said, "Oh my gosh, that'd be really fun. I've never been the moderator of a panel. I've been on panels, but I've never been the moderator. So how fun. I would love that. Let's do it. Who's on the panel? What are we talking about? Do you have something in mind, or did you want me to come up with something?" And he said, "Well, I do have something in mind, but I don't know how you feel about it." So I said, "Okay, what is it?" He said, "Well, I was thinking it would be a great panel discussion to talk about transgender and how it affects women's issues." And I went, "Ooh, wow. Well, talk about a hot topic, talk about a big subject right now in our crazy times. Seems to be dominating the conversation around the world, or at least around the country." And so I said, "Yeah, absolutely. That'd be really cool. I would enjoy that. I'm already thinking of questions as we speak." And I said, "Oh, wait, who's on the panel? Who are we going to have on there?" He says, "Well, I'm working on that right now, but it looks like I have Alveda King all set to join us." And I said, and he started to go on. So I stopped him right at the and I said, "I'm sorry, did you say Alveda King? Like Alveda King?" He said, Yeah. Alveda's on board. She's going to do the panel." He's very calm, cool, and collected. I'm like, "Dude, Alveda King, are you kidding me? That's really cool. Like really cool. She's, I love her. I think she's great." So she's, one of the three panelists that we have. And then he said, well, so a tiny bit more backstory. He had somebody else on board until he told them the topic, and they backed out. They backed out when they heard it was about transgenderism, and they were concerned about their platform and discussing that topic, and how that would affect all of their stuff. So it was a little surprising and disappointing because it is, well, whatever. No names. It is what it is. So that's fine. So got back to me a little bit later. He said, "Okay, I've got to our other two panelists, and it's going to be Tina Griffin from Counterculture Mom." And at that, again, I was like, "What? Well, that's cool." And your third panelist, Elsa, is going to be Mona Corwin from Moms Like Us. And I said, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? These are like the greatest. They are such great, great ladies." And I get to share not a stage, but a space with them, and get to have this really big conversation. And I just, somebody pinch me that I get to do these cool things. I don't even know how I rated to be able to have these opportunities, but I'm just humbled and grateful. So yeah, three really special, great, great ladies, and a really challenging topic. I will be honest, I did have some trepidation talking about. I do know people in my personal life who are, and what I can tell you about them is that they just want to live a quiet life. They just want to live their life just like everybody else. And so it was really important to me because of that specifically. And because I consider myself a Christian, I wanted to go forward with this topic in an honest but compassionate way. In other words, I didn't want this to be bash people conversation. I wanted this to be an honest conversation that is delivered with kindness. And yes, it can be done. I think you can reject the sin and not the sinner, because let's not forget, we are all sinners. Every single one of us, none of us are worthy. I really wanted to go forward with this in a kind way. And I was so happy, not surprised, but so happy to be sitting with three women who have the same approach that I do on this topic. And on really all topics that, you need to be honest, you need to speak the truth, even when the truth is painful and it's not what you want to hear. But you can also deliver that truth with kindness and compassion and heart, because that was one of the things that I kind of feel like I was seeing a bit on the right that I wasn't happy about. That people will go with cruelty and mean spiritedness. And I just, personally, I mean, I can't dictate what anybody else does, but personally, that's just not my approach and not the way I think it should be handled. You're talking, when you're talking about up until like the 2000s, early 2000s, it was classified as a mental disorder. And it was a clinically diagnosed mental illness. And it was only until recent years that very recent years, that they started to move away from that in the medical field, and obviously in the social media and media fields. So, you can dress it up any old way you want, no pun intended. But it's still a mental disorder. I mean, when you don't believe that you were born in the right body, when you have absolute contempt and hatred and disgust for yourself, I mean, that's heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. And if it doesn't break your heart to think about another human being loathing themselves so much that they are willing to mutilate their bodies to change them, you're forgetting your humanity. You're forgetting your humanity, honestly. That is such a deep sadness that no one should have to feel, and it should break your heart. So that's my standpoint on it. Doesn't mean I agree with it and accept it and think it's good or right or any of those things. As a matter of fact, I have, who I have absolute disgust and contempt for. It's the medical professionals performing these surgeries. It's the psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists who are promoting and condoning and more than accepting. They're encouraging this mental disorder, this mental illness. They are encouraging it. All of them are encouraging it. I have disgust and contempt for parents who also encourage and condone this in their young, impressionable, vulnerable children. That's who I have contempt and disgust for. They are horrible people. You can't tell me otherwise. Intentionally or unintentionally, they are horrible people. Okay, because to sit there and tell someone who is feeling so, I mean, unhappy is such an understatement, depressed and fragile and broken about themselves, to sit there and look at them and say, oh, yeah, you're right. Everything about you is completely wrong and should be changed. And that'll make you happy. That is a monstrous thing to do to another human being, to tell them that they are right to loathe themselves in the body and essence and everything that God made them. Because That's right, people. God does not make mistakes. He did not make any mistakes when he created us. So what you're telling these poor people who are suffering, and, by the way, if you don't already know, their suicide and suicide attempt rate is way high. Depression, all of the things that these people suffer with and deal with. And on top of it, they are being sold a lie that you can become something that you're not. That is the ultimate cruelty to me. And I think anybody participating in that is a monster. You can call us the monsters all you want. But I know who the monsters are. I'm sorry. And I may lose people for that, and it is what it is. But that is the case. So anyhow, without further ado, here is our panel. And here's what we had to say on the topic of and women's issues, or how they affect women's issues. Ready?
Well, hello, guys. It's Elsa Kurt here from the Elsa Kurt Show. We are at NRB convention right now, and I have an unbelievable, incredible panel.